loot boxes, season passes, and egotistical CEOs. We're not talking about Ubisoft. Well, I guess we kind of are. This is Mythic Quest. Mythic Quest is an all-new show on Apple TV produced by the same people behind It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It stars Rob McElhenney, F. Murray Abraham, Imani Hakim, Danny Putty, Charlotte Nickdow, and many, many more. So the show follows the daily lives of a game development team that are working on an expansion for their MMORPG. It just happens to be the most successful MMORPG of all time. Can they launch it successfully with all of the drama that happens in the office? Or will it crash and burn and the company go under? So as you guys know, when I talk about TV shows, I talk about the good and the bad. That being said, let's start with the good. This show goes into so many details about the problems that we as gamers are dealing with the industry folks, you know, the big developers, the publishers, all those people who are doing some pretty shady stuff. What's really interesting is they kind of go in depth with a lot of these issues that we're having. It's almost like they did an honest self-appraisal of what they had been doing and why it affected their sales. And I say they because Ubisoft, or Ubisoft, depending on how you like to say it, had a big hand in helping make this show successful. Not only did they consult on the show and help with a lot of the fine details, but they also provided all of the gameplay footage, the animations, basically everything that you see in the show that is supposed to be footage of Mythic Quest or their expansion, Raven's Banquet, is stuff from Ubisoft like For Honor, Assassin's Creed, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So the show is basically riffing on the game industry and MMORPGs as a whole. It really looks and feels like World of Warcraft. But what's crazy is they talk about crunch. Crunch is something that's really affecting the gaming industry, where people have to work way more hours than they're supposed to. And it's not so much that a lot of them have issues with the hours. A lot of game developers don't care, but a lot of them aren't getting paid for the work that they're doing in those extra hours, and that's a big issue. And the fact that the show talks about it is pretty cool. It's not just that they talk about. They talk about gender equality, they talk about hacking, they talk about unionization of, game developers and play testers and all that kind of stuff, because the gaming industry really needs to unionize and stick together, because they're really getting screwed, especially the people who work for contract. There is an element of old school versus new school. One of the people that's key to the show is F. Murray Abraham's character, who used to be a big sci-fi writer, fantasy writer, and now he actually writes the stories for the game. And on the other side of that coin, they have Twitch streamers that they talk about, that they show. One of them is called Pooty Shoot, who obviously is making fun of PewDiePie. It's just a younger version of what PewDiePie would have been like. The show's very self-aware. I mean, even Pooty Shoot, when he gives games ratings, he gives them buttholes. So if he really likes a game, it gets 2 or 3 buttholes. And that leads into the humor. The show can be pretty funny. There are times where, the jokes fall a little flat, but for the most part, it is pretty good. It did make me laugh out loud a few times, which is pretty rare with, I guess you would call it a sitcom. It's not, a laugh track or anything like that, but it's not a single cam show, documentary style thing like The Office or Parks and Rec either. It's just a super clean, narratively driven show that uses multiple cameras. I really enjoy Rob McElhenney's portrayal of the creative director of the game. His name is Ian, because nothing is more douchey than Ian. It used to be Ian, but then they started changing it to sound cooler. His character is kind of egomaniacal. He's very much a control freak. He is often out of control, and that's like a lot of creative directors are in the industry. If you see all of these reports that Kotaku and these other gaming websites have written about these different gaming developers, the creative heads, they can make or break a company, and they can make the employees miserable. But he's not a dick the whole time. There are times where he shows heart, where he does show true creative genius, and where he does give credit to his team. And I think that's good, because even the weirdest, creative directors are going to do something like that every once in a while. And honestly, if they don't, they should be fired anyway. Because Ubisoft was involved, there's a lot of stuff within the game itself that's very accurate. They talk about hit points and clans and trolling. They show a bunch of stuff with mocap suits, which is pretty hilarious. They talk about racism and subgroups that are within these MMORPGs, which is a real thing. But what's cool is the fact that whenever they talk about these hot button issues that are really affecting the industry or gaming in general, they address it and they almost show like what developers should be doing to those problem areas, how they can fix it, how they can remedy it. And of course, most of these developers in the real world aren't doing that. If you look at Riot Games, they're a mess. It was really funny to see, influencers and gaming conventions and all the stuff put front and center for normal viewers to take in. If you're not a hardcore gamer, you probably wouldn't know about a lot of these things. So not only is this show funny and entertaining, not only does it show people that there is a lot that goes into creating a game, because a game, when done well, is a true piece of art. It shows them it's more than what they perceive. It's more than what they see. It's not just some kid sitting in the basement yelling out, racial slurs or talking to his mom or whatever. Although they do show some of that stuff, which is pretty hilarious. There is a really, really cool one-off episode. It reminded me of season 2 of Atlanta. That episode where the guys went to that weird house where the two brothers lived. This episode is about a male and female developer that meet up and they start a company together. They eventually get married and, it goes through all their trials and tribulations. I think that episode itself could actually be a series as well, especially with the actor and actress that were behind it. It's just really, really enjoyable. And when it happened, I was kind of sitting there wondering, what's going on? What does this have to do with the rest of the story? And it actually does tie in later in a really cool way. I enjoy how they show what a development team looks like when they first start and what it can turn into if, you're not cautious and you let focus groups and influencers and CEOs and shareholders and everything else change what your company is, change who you are, change what the game is. And I know I'm talking a lot about the gaming side of the show, but it is a show about gaming, but you don't have to be a gamer to enjoy the show. Like I said, it is informative and you will learn some stuff, but it's basically something like The Office or Parks and Rec. Again, it's not that one camera self-aware, documentary style thing, but it is something that you can watch and enjoy. You don't have to work, obviously, in a government building to enjoy Parks and Rec. You don't have to work at a paper company to enjoy The Office. You don't have to be a game developer to enjoy this show. But if you are a gamer, there are a lot of cool things you'll see in this show. There are certain, actors or actresses in the show that you will know from many, many games. We're talking Horizon Zero Dawn, Life is Strange, Outer Worlds, After Party, Borderlands, and so many more. There's quite a few voice actors from games that you love in the show that actually get to act, and that's really cool. So this is possible to binge in one day. There are 9 episodes, but they're only 30 minutes each. So, one good sitting or, to be healthy, let's take 2 sittings. It does have a nice, satisfying ending, but it does leave it open to some really funny and interesting scenarios that I can already picture. And what's great about it is they've already renewed it for season 2. It's a really eclectic cast. They work really well together. So I'm really looking forward to some more of it. But with all that being said, let's talk about the bad. I know I mentioned Parks and Rec and The Office twice already, and I'm about to mention it a third time. I think this show is great, it's funny, but it definitely would have worked better as a single camera documentary style thing to where people can kind of break the fourth wall. They can use, certain looks and things as jokes. It would have added a whole nother element to it. Now, as I said, the people behind It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia actually produced the show. They're writing it. They have help from Ubisoft. It's way too safe. It's way too safe, especially given the fact that it's not on TV. It's on Apple TV, which is a streaming service, so they should be able to do what they want, like they did with C. C was really gory and violent. When you have the minds behind It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia writing and producing the show, and it doesn't have that level of dark humor and raunchiness and stuff, I feel like it loses a little something that would have propelled it to greatness. It definitely panders to a certain type of audience that you are finding more and more online these days, certain demographics and stuff, but to be honest, what doesn't, if it's not a show, if it's not a game, a movie, everybody tries to pander to certain demographics, to that vocal minority, that you find on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, just social media in general. And again, I think it loses a little bit of its steam because of that. There are a couple of annoying characters and they're made that way on purpose, but sometimes they're so annoying that it's annoying. There's no other way to describe it. It's just you wish they would get off the screen for just a little bit, give you a little bit of a break. The acting in the show, can feel a little hammy. It can feel a little on the nose at times. I love a good setup and payoff. You know, they're really interesting, they're really fun, but the majority of the ones that you get in this show, they are kind of obvious. You will see what's happening coming before it does. There are others that don't. There are some moments that it does surprise you, and there is this one really cool twist that you don't see coming, but don't expect to be, you know, surprised left and right. It definitely could have been a little bit more focused. It could have had more of a momentum, more of a tension building or something along the way. It did that, but it wasn't until like the last 3 episodes or so. All the ones before that, they were kind of like one-off episodes. All in all, I do think it's a fun show. It's definitely worth watching. If you are a gaming fan, you're definitely going to enjoy it. If you're not a gaming fan, I think you'll still definitely enjoy it because there is some crazy characters, there are some fun scenarios. And if you bought any Apple product recently, it's not like you're gonna miss out. You know, you've got this Apple TV anyways. As far as being able to watch it, you know, over here in the GCC, we actually get Apple TV. We get all of the shows because Apple didn't do like Amazon and Hulu, Netflix, and all of these other streaming services and say, oh, we can't put it out yet, or oh, we'll give you the service, but we'll only give you this much. So with all that being said, what is my score? Drum roll, please. 6 out of 10.